Good evening, everyone. I just wanted to quickly introduce myself since I will be the one speaking. My name is Michael O'Rourke, and I did my presentation on Andy Warhol. I'm in your art appreciation class, so I'm gonna go ahead and get started. I'm just letting everyone know that this video is all three of my videos combined in one. So I'm just gonna go ahead and identify when I'll be moving on to my next thing. So first I'm going to start off with a formal analysis, and I'm going to go ahead and use the very, I don't want to say simplified, but I'm just flipping through here. So Campbell's Soup 1, this was created in 1968, and it was a mixed media piece, but mostly used alcohol ink. So, I didn't want to just read my blurb here. I'm going to actually go ahead and get into this. So you can see it's actually a very simple artwork, which, I mean, when you think about Andy Warhol, you think of his very famous pop art, which is, I don't want to say what he's known for, but when most people think Andy Warhol, they think of that Marilyn Monroe piece, and they do think of the Campbell Soup. But this specific artwork was a very simplified version, and it was just one, just showing one in profile. And a lot of his more famous artworks dealing with soup are like the crushed can, and then that huge wall of a bunch of soup cans. Now, this is just the tomato soup can, and it was almost like a precursor to what was later to come. You can see that the way it was drawn was very simplified, but I mean, it does show a lot of detail and it does show a lot of scientific accuracy. The way it's shaded, there's not much shading provided. It's shown in 2D. It's not actually a 3D artwork. It as though the words do show curvature with the lines, there's no shading or hatching or anything going onto the side. So it's a very simplified version of a soup can, but its simplicity almost speaks for itself. And it's a very vibrant artwork we can see with the red and the black. It's, once again, to reiterate, it's more simple, but the brightness of the colors are consistent with Warhol's themes and his interests. And it's just showing one soup can is a really great way to lead into what Warhol was to do with his life and where his art was going to go because as everyone knows, humans change significantly from their birth to their death, and if you create art your entire life, of course your art is going to change. And then let me go ahead and I can't actually scroll back, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get actually skip ahead and give a biographical retrospective for this artwork. Now, this was produce seller and female at front door. This was created in 1946, so one of Warhol's earlier artworks. And you can see that it was created with pen and pencil. It wasn't one of his super famous pop art pieces, which I think it's really interesting to actually show where he started and show his foundation and show that most artists do start off with that normal traditional instruction where what many of us started out with in high school where it was art one, where it was basically this is a pen, this is a pencil, and this is how you create shape, this is how you give shape definition, and this is how you give shape value, this is how you make a circle 3D, this is how you turn a circle into a sphere. And you can see Warhol practicing and executing his skills and his talents through just a simple scene from something you would see every day on the streets. It's women buying produce, and there's a car in the background, and it appears to be, some may say it's unfinished, but I would say, I mean, I don't really believe an artwork is ever unfinished. I believe an artwork just presents itself as what it is. And to this, it's not necessarily completed to full detail, but I would say it is a complete artwork. And you can see almost his comedic and rebellious perspective with the woman bending over and making a more suggestive pose as she bends into the back of the car. And it just shows that Warhol was never afraid to actually speak his mind and speak his mind through art and actually, you know, not be a traditionalist, which I think we all can understand as the way he shows people. I mean, his most famous Marilyn Monroe piece, it's just It's just Marilyn Monroe with very bright colors. And keep in mind, Marilyn Monroe was not necessarily seen to be controversial, but she was highly sexualized and she was a almost like a statue for men where like she was glamorized and she was seen as like the prize for every wealthy and successful man that like everyone was working towards having someone in their life as beautiful as Marilyn Monroe to call their own, which is once again disrespectful towards women, but that was the time and that's how men viewed women. And Warhol, being Warhol, obviously had a different view and opinion of women, which was more of like a camaraderie type of view instead of as someone at his disposal and someone he can use for himself. And he viewed women more as creative equals and people who were equal to him in his life. All right, so I'm gonna move on to a deep dive into the meaning and context to artwork, and let me go ahead and move on to the Mickey Mouse quadrants. And this was created in 1982, so a later artwork, a few years before his death. This was a screen print, and once again, so this is when Andy Warhol's like pop art really took off. I mean, this is what he was known for at this time, and this kind of was what defined his career. It was pop art. I mean, everyone knows Andy Warhol to be a pop artist and to be crazy and to be one of the most creative people at his time and to really break the rules. So, as much as Andy Warhol was like this significant and very talented pioneer in the art community, and of course for his time, I mean, like, he did have a very, I don't want to say theatrical life, but I mean, like, he was shot and like survived, someone tried to kill him. But he did have to stay relevant. That's, and of course, very important for any career where your products are consumable based off of entertainment and pleasure. So, like maybe like Emma Chamberlain having to stay relevant with or relevant with today's population. Andy Warhol also had to stay relevant with his population and that continues on today. I mean, many young people probably don't know Warhol like the same way young people did at his time. I mean, he studied in art history, not so much as like an artist working now, obviously, because he's since passed. But so it's interesting to see how he was very good at networking and very good at marketing his art and very good at staying relevant and staying with culture, hence why he would work with famous celebrities like Marilyn Monroe. I mean, it was almost performative in nature, but also, of course, it made sense to support his career. So you can see he's using Mickey Mouse, which was once again another very popular facet of culture at the time, cartoons. I mean, Walt Disney, like he was so his decisions on the subject matter he would display in his artwork were very planned out and methodical because I mean, if you were to use a very popular character or person from the time, of course, the art is going to be more consumable. And Warhol was very intelligent in assuring that his artwork was in fact consumable, it was profitable, kept him relevant, and of course, it kept making money for him. So by using Mickey Mouse and by incorporating Mickey Mouse and doing so in such an abstract manner, I mean, when you picture like the original Walt Disney Mickey Mouse cartoons, like they're not Mickey Mouse is not displayed like super colorfully, and the cartoons are displayed in black and white. So by taking like a normal, I don't want to describe Mickey Mouse as drab, but as not very detailed or not very vibrant, and then mixing this with pop art and doing it, of course, in a quadrant is also interesting. Makes for a very interesting artwork, and as he normally worked with people, and so to go from working with people like Marilyn Monroe and Mao to go into a cartoon, of course, raised eyebrows and called attention. And it was a big deal. I mean, Warhol broke a lot of rules. I mean, socially, artistically, financially. I mean, he never really followed society's rules. And I think by incorporating Mickey Mouse into his pop art, which was sometimes not so appropriate and was sometimes very controversial, is a really interesting way to actually stay relevant and to actually make his artwork consumable daily. And so that's actually the end of my little presentation. I hope you enjoyed it, and this will be available for my classmates to